What does limerence feel like for you?
If you had asked me a long time ago, I would have just said love and excitement, and it's like a rush of feelings, and it's so great. But now my answer is it feels like panic.
Welcome to Imagine an Apple with Vynn and Francis. Today we'll be talking with Michelle on the topic of limerence. So today, instead of imagining apples, we'll be imagining what limerence is like. So this all kicked off a few weeks ago when Michelle did an AMA, Ask Me Anything, on Twitter. Long story short, there was a flurry of responses with wildly different experiences of limerence. Some people claimed to experience limerence on a frequent basis, since preschool even, and then there were others who claimed to have not experienced it at all. And then there's everyone else who falls in between these two extremes. I'm going to call this the hypo to hyper limerence spectrum. So the question I have to ask you today is, what does limerence feel like for you?
If you had asked me a long time ago, I would have just said love and excitement, and it's like a rush of feelings, and it's so great. But now my answer is it feels like panic. It feels kind of like careening toward the edge of a cliff. Like I'm about to die kind of sensation. And mixed with love and happy and oh my god, and this is so great, but you're also careening toward a cliff. So to the extent that you're aware of that, it feels scary. It registers now in my body if I feel it with someone as a huge nope, run away. Kind of like if a drug addict was offered drugs after they've gotten clean and they have this sensation of like moving forward and then being like, whoa, 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 no, 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 stop.
Right. So
So it's a big warning.
there's a strong withdrawal element to it as well, because you liken it to drugs.
Yeah, at this point. I
Interesting.
feel I don't think that, well, I've heard some people say that they used to experience it the way I do and now they don't, which is fascinating to me because I'm not quite there, but I do have a level of awareness about it that is embodied now. It's not I used to have it mental. I had a mental awareness, and now I have a physical awareness.
Mm. Do you think it was always physical, but you've just only recently discovered the awareness, like notice it in your body? Did it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I think I just thought it was normal because, as I mentioned, my AMA said I've been experiencing limerence since preschool. So obviously, when I was in preschool, I didn't know. I just was like, I'm in love with a boy who
And
doesn't
you
want
just
anything to do with me, which makes me love him more.
and you thought it was normal.
Yeah.
J- So the mental awareness version, did that come in like words or images or concepts? Can you like how did you become what was the mental experience of it like?
I started researching. I mean, I feel like I was researching for years without actually finding this term, first of all. And I would just, the only place I got pointed to was Sex and Love Addicts. And I even attended a meeting, and I think after about 15 minutes of listening to people in the meeting, I was like, "No, this isn't my problem. This is different." And, well, that's because I think that they should split that 12-step program up into sex addicts and love addicts because the Limerent folks would actually relate to the love addiction part. I think that they're synonymous, personally, but the sex addiction part was not that didn't resonate for me because you can have limerence and have no sexual feelings, or it's not about that at all. So, like, frequently it is about that, but it's not the number one characteristic for everyone.
It's really easy to
So,
confuse that. I agree with you.
very.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got a really interesting question because you mentioned that you only discovered the term limerence fairly like recently or like later in life. What and whereas you've been feeling the emotion all the way up to like preschool. So what did you call it before you knew about the term limerence?
I called it me being a horrible person because I would be in a relationship with one person and then have these strong feelings for somebody else and have to contend with that. Like, why is that happening? What does that mean? What does it mean about me? What does it mean about the relationship? So I used to take it to mean the relationship is doomed and I need to get out of it. And so I'd get out of it and then date the person I became limerent with and then repeat the process over and over and over and over and over.
And this has happened like more than
Oh, yeah.
once?
Many times.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds really intense.
Yes. It's pretty much the way that all of my relationships started in some way, shape, or form. Because without the awareness around it, it's just, again, it seems normal, or you just assume everyone's having this exact same experience. So this must just be what it's like. And I've heard people say this. I said, well, I guess I'll just marry whoever I'm dating around the age of 25. I don't know. How else would you decide? Everyone feels the same to me.
Yeah, that sounds like a very uncommon experience.
Yeah.
Francis?
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a good experience. Yeah,
But again, when
yeah.
you don't know anything else. So it's just like, oh,
Mm,
relationships are really intense and crazy.
Yeah.
mm.
Just really quickly, I probably felt this maybe twice in my life, whereas you've had this much more often. So I can see why you'd like congratulate me for only having it twice.
Yeah.
Francis?
Yeah, I think I've come near to it, but it was more in the crush category. It's like fundamental difference of the experience.
Right.
The How common do you think it is? Like, do you think like
Oh,
most people get
it's
this, or?
extraordinarily common. Yeah. And I say that because of the number of people I've encountered who I mentioned something about it and they're like, wait, you know about limerence? Like it's this underground taboo topic. And I've had hours long conversations with friends about it who have done deep dives like me, or even random strangers I've met that have gotten a conversation and I've been talking to them for a while. And then I'm like, have you ever heard the term limerence? And they go, oh, wait, you know about it too. So I feel like a lot of people are experiencing it. And I'm also a coach, so I talk to a lot of people. And I don't bring it to a client, but I hear people having these experiences often.
Mm,
Mm.
okay.
Wow, so it could be like half of people have had it, or that kind of amount.
Yeah. I
Who
mean,
knows?
there's been there are a lot of studies and different people. If you dig around, I read some of Dorothy Tennov's book. Dorothy Tennov's the one who coined the term. And I had it was very dated and I had a hard time getting through it, but I have a hard time getting through most books. So that's not even anything against that book in particular. But yeah, there was some statistics in there about it, and I can't recall them off the top of my head, but it does seem that there's probably a huge spectrum. And my take is that the extent to which you experienced childhood trauma, especially in the realm of emotional abandonment, will determine how limerent you are. That's just from my
Mm,
because that was my primary traumas in life are around being emotionally abandoned. And so it's like the limerence is trying to point me to heal something, to work something out with this person. Maybe if I get them to return the love, it'll heal the thing in me that is yet to heal. And it's a misguided attempt because even when the limerence is returned, well, usually it ends. If the person, one of the ways that limerence ends is that the person confirms their feelings. Oh, I feel the same way. And then it will dissipate. And it
So what
doesn't
you
actually heal your wound. Just you think it will.
what, sorry, so if they feel the same way, it doesn't dissipate and turn into love or a proper relationship. It dissipates in a kind of
I think
vanishes
it
way.
often vanishes. Yes, almost entirely. And not for everyone, but I found that stories about it working out are quite rare and take a lot of work.
Yeah, so it's making it hard to form good relationships, basically, as a
Yes, it does. And my husband and I started out with limerence and it went away after 3 months. And we've been together 15 years and we have taken apart and put our relationship back together a number of times. So I don't think we have the same relationship as the one when we started, and we're certainly not the same people. I mean, just the amount of personal development work and healing work that we've done together over the years is, I think, above average. It's above what the average people go and do. But when I've talked about this on other podcasts, but when I got together with him, and he was different because we knew each other for a whole year as friends, and I didn't have those feelings. But then, like, our whirlwind started after that once I was out of my relationship that I had been in. And I said to him, I was like, you shouldn't date me because I do this thing where I get together with people and then 3 months later I could lose all interest in them and I fuck them up. So like, don't date me. And eventually he was just like, okay, I get it. You have a pattern and you think you're a terrible person and you think you're going to break my heart. That's a risk I'm willing to take. Can we stop talking about it now?
Right. And now you are 15 years later, still happily married.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. So I guess it's fair enough to say that you love your husband and you know what romance and true love feels like, and you presumably also feel sexual attraction to him.
Mhm.
Can you like go through the differences between now that you've like come out
Oh,
on the
yeah.
more other end of the spectrum? You know how it differs from limerence. Can you
Big
like
time.
explain to us like what it feels like and how they differ from each
Well,
other?
first of all, real love can feel very boring to a limerent person. Very boring. Like, ho hum. What is even this? Just like being sober could feel boring to an addict, right? But at the same time, you can actually experience life. You're here, you're present. You're not wasted. You're here. And I feel like it takes a long time to start to find the pleasure in the normality and to not need that chaos in order to feel something. So for me, the love I have for my husband or my daughter, we could include her in that too, is not obsessive. It's not grasping. They are their own person. I don't need them to be a particular way. And when it's limerence, it's like the person isn't even a person. They are an object. I need them to behave in a particular way so I can feel a certain way about myself. So it's
Mm.
almost like I'm not in love with the person, I'm in love with the way they make me feel about me. And a real relationship needs to be able to have disagreement and hard truths and difficult conversations. And if you're sometimes the limerence I had with my husband will creep back in occasionally when he doesn't see, even this, when I was going to say when he doesn't like one of my ideas. No, when I present one of my ideas and he's like, well, have you thought about this? Which is his primary mode of speaking. I picked someone who likes to debate. Even if he doesn't fully believe in what he's saying, he just likes to debate. And I
That's
will
very-
I will receive it like this attack on my person. And I have to separate in that moment and be like, no, 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 no. That's not what's actually happening right now. And that's taken a lot of work for me over the years, but I can do it. I can even do it when he sounds like he's directly attacking, where I'm like, nope, this is the person I love. And so I can see that he needs something and he is upset, and I will move toward him rather than away. And I won't shut down, and I'll ask questions and I'll lean in. So there's a willingness to allow the other person to be exactly where they are when it's love,
Okay,
and the
cool.
opposite when it's not.
So how
Hmm.
does this compare to like crushes? Do you think like limerence are a type of crush? And if so, what type of crush is that?
Well, the word crush is funny, huh? Because there's this song. I can't remember which song this is, but the line is, this crush is kind of crushing me. And I think about that, like, you're getting crushed.
Yeah.
And there's kind of, I don't understand the a light level of attraction to another person because I have not really experienced that.
Light?
It's
Yeah.
kind of all or nothing to me. But from what I hear, maybe you just sort of like somebody and you kind of get giddy around them a little bit and it doesn't take over your person. So the big
Yeah.
difference is that with limerence, you will do things in order to stay in connection with that person that are not good for you. And again, I will liken it to drug addiction, because when an addict can't get their fix, they will do some bad things to get it.
There was a description that it feels different in the body. So this, because obviously one of the things that's useful if you're experiencing limerence is to learn when you're experiencing it and when you're not, and
Yeah.
pay attention to it. Is there like a different part of your body that you feel it in when you know it's limerence, as opposed to love, or a different tone to the feeling physically?
Very different. And I'll go back to the thing about love. Love feels a little boring. Love is sort of like a radiating warmth and a groundedness, whereas limerence, I will get dizzy, physically dizzy, hot, like hot around my face. My chest is burning. My heart is pounding. I'm being kind of sucked. Like, let's say I'm texting. I'm like, I am sucked into the phone. I'm not even there anymore. I lose track of time. I'm not here.
So there's like tunnel vision and like a heart rate
Yeah.
is like going up. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems familiar.
Whereas love, like the easiest way for people who haven't experienced that grounded, companionable love, that real appreciation for the person that you're with, I think I understood it better once I had a kid. And I could just be with her and just be like, I just love her so much. And there's that parental sense of, oh my God, I have to keep this child safe, and what if I lose her? And parents can be very obsessive and grasping with their children. Thankfully, I am not afflicted in that way with my kid. If anything, I'm the opposite, if anything. But no, I respect her. It's kind of a funny thing to say about your kid, but I respect my kid. I'm just like, yeah, you're your own. Wow, look at you. You're
You're
like,
not an
you're a
object.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
It's really interesting. I'm just trying to think, because some of those things you get from a passion that I think isn't necessarily limerence as well, like attention going to the person and like hot and dizzy and pounding heart and so on. But
Right.
I feel like there's some element of some of the experience of anxiety or something maybe mixed in limerence as well,
There
and it's
is.
got a different, yeah, a
Yeah.
different
Like
tone.
I've had insomnia when I was limerent, disordered eating, putting myself in bad situations, like going to that bar in that neighborhood that I should not be going to at 21 alone in New York City and things like that. So I think there's a difference between feeling very passionate about another person and being like, yeah, I'm gonna go out on a date. I'm so excited versus I'm gonna put myself in physical danger in order to spend time with this person. And I know it's not a good idea.
Right. So, what do you think actually causes it? So, you said briefly earlier to do with things from childhood. Is there like a
Mhm.
particular? Is there something that do you think it triggers in people in general, or is it more a kind of ongoing personality thing that's attracted to it?
I
What's the kind
mean,
of
given that it started for
cause?
me so early that I really think it's just wired. You're wired. And again, the same way some people can. My dad's an alcoholic and I'm not. But I but I am addicted to people. I get addicted to people, but I can handle alcohol, And like some people really can't handle alcohol and they need to stay away from it. And it's like, well, what triggers that? Oh, it's in the genes. So I do wonder whether it's inherited in some way. I don't know, but I do think that abandonment wounding is across the board. Everyone I've talked to who experiences a lot of limerence has that experience of, I didn't have safe people to receive my emotions when I was young. And so it
Mm,
wasn't okay to be human, basically.
mm,
I didn't have confidants I didn't have it. People heard me and maybe made fun of me or maybe brushed me off or something like that. So I was very just always feeling left and not sufficiently gotten and held and heard and understood.
Mm. Yeah. So it makes me think about, obviously lots of therapy partly is treating
Yes.
behaviors that happened in childhood that were necessary then but then don't work anymore
Right.
as an adult. And it's quite interesting that, so in Heidi's video, it's super interesting that she helped process it herself by paying attention to the bodily feeling, and then and that helped her understand it, which obviously some therapy does as well, gets you to think
Yes.
about your bodily feelings. But it also sounds like for some people, like talking therapy would help as well, and
Yeah.
which is closely related to coaching. So I sense you probably know about it. So
Yeah. Well, and
is
I've
there
done
a
a lot of
general
it.
right? So is there a general thing that generally improving your mental health will lead to reducing the symptoms of limerence?
I think so. Yeah. I do think that any any inner work that you can do will help. And the ways I will just list off ways that I've tried to address this, and coaching is certainly one, because simply confiding in another person and hearing anything reflected back or having inquiry gifted to you by another person, hey, have you, like, here's a question, and to look at it is awesome. I've done a talk therapy with 3 different, maybe 4 different practitioners over the years. Yeah, some longer term than others, but I've also gone to a variety of different spiritual healers, one of whom is not a marketed medium, but he kinda does some of that. It just happens in the sessions. But it was, what he does is called vibrational harmonic healing. I can't even explain it to you. It kinda looks like talk therapy, it kinda looks like coaching, and then it's not. I did a lot of work with him, and I would call him up and be like, "The thing's happening again with a person." And he would just laugh because it was always
Mm,
the same pattern and dynamic, and he would have me understand that it's not about the other person, I am objectifying this person.
mm,
I think after I found out the term limerence, I was trying to find a therapist who specializes in this, and I'm just gonna say, if any therapists are listening, you could you could make a lot of money, if you actually look into this and put yourself out there as someone who wants to work with these specific people, because there aren't really any. It's very, very thin. But I found someone. I went
oh,
to an event here in Jersey, and it was a business networking event for women, and I got put into an icebreaker circle, and you go around and you say what you do. And this woman across from me, it gets to her, she's like, "Hey, I'm a therapist. I specialize in eating disorders and love addiction." And
oh wow.
I literally jumped out of my seat and was like, "Do you have a card?" And then the woman next to me was like, "Wait, me too. Oh my God." And we all started flipping out that this woman said she specializes in love addiction. And in fact, her practice has been full for years. She is incredibly sought after, and she's very good because, like, I did EMDR with her around it, and in addition to just the talking, and
Mm,
she
that's
saved
the
my
eye
life.
movement related one,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so if people listening don't know, they use a light bar that the light goes back and forth, or on Zoom you can use a bouncing ball. They have these apps that they use. It
Mm,
worked for me either way, but you focus your eyes on it and it does something to your mind and allows buried memories and things to surface. And I was always very surprised by what would come up and
mm,
what childhood events were connected to the present day feelings. It was never what I would have gotten to myself.
mm, mm.
And
That's really.
I'm yeah, and I know it doesn't work for some people, or they're like, "Yeah, I tried that." And you have to be pretty open. You got to be pretty willing to allow thoughts and allow the first thing that comes up to be the quote right answer and just allow it out of your mouth. But I had a lot shift for me with that. Didn't take it away, obviously, but it helped me with a lot of the buried pain around the things that happened to me as a kid that would lead to me being more limerent because I'm still trying to heal this thing. So there's not always a front door. So that was that. But before I found her, I tried to address it in 12-step programs. Specifically, there's a bunch for people who are affected by alcoholics. So there's Al Anon, big BBA, big book awareness. And then there's what I did was adult children of alcoholics. And man, did I need to be in that program. I did it for 5 years, and I had never heard of anyone talking the way people were talking in those rooms. And it was so
Mm,
helpful to just have my childhood normalized, and my adulthood, frankly, just have it normalized, and also hear people who had it even worse than me, and not in a way that made me feel
mm,
like I shouldn't feel the way I do, but just going,
mm,
oh, it could be worse. Okay, that gives me a little
mm,
access to, well, compassion, and also I have some
mm,
blessings I have been overlooking here,
mm,
which that's good to notice and be grateful for what you can be grateful for. And I've
mm,
actually gotten, at this point in my life, I'm 39, I fairly recently had a new layer of forgiveness with my dad and the way that my life went with his alcoholism. And he's still alive, but he's not really mentally here. So he,
mm,
for all intents and purposes, isn't here, but he's physically alive.
mm,
And I really genuinely, for the first time just a few months ago, was like, wow, I think all of these limerent connections that I've had have been me just trying to heal that father wound over and over and over. I use the phrase, I
ah.
keep picking dad-shaped men to
So
have this dynamic with.
the grasping was looking for the things that you had missed
Yeah.
as a child.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. So it's yeah. So it's similar to yeah. In fact, with lots of mental health conditions, it's a similar thing
Right.
that you're doing a
Right.
behavior that responds to that, and in this case, yeah, to do with attachment. That makes sense. Do you, so so though that experience helps you. Have you've reduced the amount you feel it so that than when you were than 10 years ago or 20 years ago.
I can't say that for certain, but I do know now that when anything feels like that to me, that grasping, obsessive thing, if that pops up with a person that I meet, I just back away.
Mm.
Like, don't feed it,
Oh,
and then it
interesting.
won't grow.
Yeah. So it's very practical. You can avoid it
I'm
like
being
an alcoholic
extremely
avoiding
practical.
alcohol. Yeah.
Yeah, and the people I am getting closer with right now, we're doing it very slowly and on purpose. So
Mm,
it's like I formed some new friendships, and we're just going slow, and they know. I've told them, I'm like, I usually get into these things
mm,
with people, and then we're just talking constantly, and we're, you know, and so what's really nice in this moment is I have I have like a little handful of new friendships I've created that are kind of boring in the best way possible.
mm, mm. That's great. I've got like another phenomenology kind of question relating to this
Go
to
for it.
ask. So this was again in Heidi Prieb's video. She talks about she noticed because one of the things you described earlier, the bodily feeling being different of like quite intense, dizzy, hot face pounding, heart burning face. She also talks about the way she imagined, so in her mind's eye, the way she pictured the object of her limerence, they would appear like above her, almost like they were a sort of secure father kind of figure
Uh-huh.
that she wanted in her mind's eye. Um, and then she actually did an intervention with that when she realized, oh, why when I imagine them are they above me? When other people I imagine them and they're just normally at my level, they're not above me. And she started forcing herself to imagine them lower. So she actually actively altered what she was imagining while she was being limerent. And it had this fear feeling, like it made her feel scared, like slightly, it gave her access to the real feeling that this was avoiding. And I wondered if you had any like visual things like that, or
Hmm.
to do with your experience of limerence?
I never thought about it visually like that, but hearing that, that's so interesting. That sounds like it would do a lot. I think that instead of that, what I tried to do to get out of being limerent with someone was get really present to their negative traits. So in a different way, have them below me.
Oh, interesting. It like yeah, emotionally or just what you think about them as a person.
Yeah, just start to diminish them and look for it because when you're in limerence, they are a god. They can do no wrong. Everything they do is art. It's perfect. And
Mm,
anyone who thinks otherwise is an enemy. And it's like you have to deify them because that's how it works. And this happens a lot when people get rejected is they'll turn it and be like, I always hated them and they're terrible. But I feel like that was a
mm.
strategy to try and get out of it was to start just flipping that really
And
quickly and
did
get
even
angry with
doing
them.
that bring up feelings, and you'd be like trying to resist that, or that would make you feel
Oh, yeah.
scared or anxious or anything?
Well, I
What would
could
the
tell
feelings
you
be?
I have a few friends who are almost like my limerence sponsors, and I feel like I feel like if they started to point out negative things about the person, I would I can feel it in my body actually now, just thinking back on it. I would have this kind of sad panic, this sort of despair in my body of
Mm.
like a hollow chest feeling and shortness of breath, like, oh no, oh no, like what if they're right? And I feel so bad. Oh no, I don't want to disparage that person. No, 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 no. They don't deserve that. That they're a good person. And just wanting to fight it, you know.
Mm.
But yeah, very visceral. So yeah, I could there's a panic. So I guess yeah, fear.
Right, because there's always an interesting thing about that, whether it helps or harms. Because yeah, my sense is to fully recover from anything, you need to experience the bad part of it.
You
But at the
do.
same time, I sometimes wonder, like, sometimes people are like, well, I'm avoiding it for a reason. It's better to stay avoided.
Right.
How did that work for you in terms of, was it too
Mm.
much like, having that feeling, or did it help you like break it to have that feeling of
I
them
think
being less?
okay. What really helped me the last time that this happened was that I had some friends who were very like, mm-mm, no, don't like it. Here's all the negative things. And I had like two friends who were like, you know what? I think you need to just allow the feelings because you always try to repress them. So
Mm,
maybe not. And I think what helped is that I had this time period where I just didn't talk to the friends who were like, no, no, no. And I just like left them over here. When I'm ready, I will go to them. And I hung out only with the people who were like, "Good job, yeah." Let's talk about all the good things going on in this relationship, and who were kind of allowing it to play out. I think that helped me a lot because it just let me be where I am. And I had so much shame around this that anytime it came up, I would immediately start to squash it. It needs to go away, make it stop. And I would just repress it and push it away and pretend it's not happening, which shockingly doesn't help.
mm, mm. Yeah,
Unless you're
yeah,
going to
not.
move to a different country and never see the person again, and in which case, there's always a little candle waiting. It's always
Mm,
waiting to be relit, which is why I'm
mm,
not friends with any of my exes.
mm,
And the one time, and I was single, and like one of my exes came back into my life, and we got right back into our fucked up toxic dynamic. And it was like, some people can be friends with their exes, and some of us really shouldn't.
mm,
Period.
mm. That makes sense. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that was really interesting and yeah, connected and embodied, which is great. Anything else you want that you would want to talk about limerence
Hmm.
comes to mind?
Well, one thing that happened when I put up that AMA is that I got a lot of DMs from people. people who experience it and just wanted to relate, like, hey, me too. And I don't want to put this in public, but here's how it's affecting my relationship. And here's all these things. I even had people reach out and say, hey, I have a friend who's going through this. How can I help her? Do you have any words of advice and all this stuff? And I'm like, can I talk to her? Because like, I,
Mm,
I, I very much felt, obviously I said I didn't even know what it was for the longest time, but I felt so alone and so ashamed for such a long time just for having these feelings, and really
mm,
genuinely thought I am not a good person, period. And no one should
mm,
date me. Uh,
mm,
and it's not easy. It's not easy to date someone who's very highly limerent. You can ask my husband. Like there takes like a crap ton of patience. But I mean, then again, we all have our stuff, anybody you get into a relationship with, you're getting into a relationship with whatever their particular stuff is. And your stuff's got to match in its intensity in some way. So I feel like we have that. There's plenty that I make allowances for, and I'm very patient and forgiving with him, and then he makes allowances and is very patient and forgiving with me. So it can work. But like, the reason I'm talking about this in just an answer to your open-ended invitation to talk about anything is because I think there's a lot of people suffering because they just think, oh, something's wrong with me, and get me out of here. I don't belong with people. I'm and wrong. And it's like, you're not, you're just hurt. And it's really hard to convince someone who's in limerence that it's limerence and that it's not good
mm,
for them, because you genuinely feel under a spell.
mm.
Like you're in an alternate universe and
Yeah,
no
I mean,
one can talk you out of that.
it's similar to other mental health conditions. Like when I was younger, like
Exactly.
20, 30 years ago, depression was in the same category. That it was rarer that people would admit to having had it, and there wasn't the
Right.
understanding that
But when
the
you come out of
difficulty and the
depression,
crap and the self, yeah. But
that
now people are
that
more prepared to. It's known somewhat, at least, that
right,
yeah, that
right.
it's a
And
thing that you can
while
have and you can come out.
people shit on it still, but like anyone who has experienced a period of depression, when you come out of it, and I have like low level depression, but whenever I've come out of it, and whenever I've heard clients say they've come out of it, it truly is like waking up in a different reality. It's like, this is not
Mm,
the universe I was in yesterday. And
mm,
whenever I have cut off contact with someone that I had limerence with, which I've had to do multiple times in my life, unfortunately. One time he left the country. That was really, really convenient and lovely. It doesn't usually happen. That was a wild gift that time in my life. I really look back, I'm like, oh, God, spirit, universe, whatever, something had my back and just had him leave the country. That was fantastic. Good job. But like I would feel like it's a different world I'm in all of a sudden. And I snapped out of it. Just snapped out of a spell. I can see clearly now. Like you're just all of a
yeah,
sudden
like
everything's
spring or
different.
something. It's yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so you have to anyone who's in it, it's like they probably don't want to talk to me because I might tell them
Mm,
something that takes them out of the cycle, and the cycle, you think it feels good, but you don't know that you're in pain until you're out of it.
So the people who messaged you, you said you got lots of direct messages. Did you have like what was your did you give standard like advice or sympathy? What was the kind of
Well, there was I will say people online are very polite, and they would be very, I don't want to take up your time. I don't want to take up your time. I'm sure you're getting a lot of messages, and they would kind of back off. And so I offered, it's like, hey, if you ever want to talk, let me know. And nobody took me up on it. I feel
mm,
like a lot of people were like, well, I don't want to abuse this or overstep. And it's like, yeah, I think I need to create some kind of container to support others with it. And not that I'm
mm,
an expert, I'm just it's like the fellow traveler model in 12 step. It's like you
yeah,
heal with the people who are also healing, which can be very problematic and difficult. So that's
yeah.
probably why I haven't created a container for it, because I'm like, I don't really super know how to hold the space for it, but I do relish the opportunity to just answer some questions and
Mm,
point people to resources like Heidi's videos, because those things, I just started mainlining her videos. I'm like, you know
mm,
what? Here's part of how we're going to get through this is we're just going to watch a lot of information on it, and it's going to help and it's going to hurt. And having more information usually helps you make better decisions.
mm. I'll definitely put a link to those in the show notes.
Yeah.
And it does sound like it. Yeah, it's a very horrible and pleasant like situation to be in that state, and the ways out are always difficult. Yeah, and it's a combination of therapy, coaching, talking to friends that you trust about it, that you can talk to, that will be empathetic,
Yeah.
feeling your body, trying and imagining them in a different place, and understanding the difference in feeling. All
Well,
of those
also,
things.
one other thing I'll say, one of the things that happens when you're in it is you stop paying attention to your own goals in your life.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's like the priority is this connection with this person, so other things kind of suffer. And one thing that's always helped me is to just refocus on my life and
Mm,
allow that person to drift into the background a bit and just prioritize and try to spend more hours a day prioritizing me and my life and my goals and the people that are closest to me, and lessen. Just don't cut it out
mm,
if you're heavily in it, because it's like it's like binge diets that people go into, or
yeah,
fad diets, that's what I meant.
yeah.
Yeah, you gotta kind of start to balance it. I always say with addiction of any kind, focusing on stopping is not it. You need to add things in that are healthy, and they start to become more attractive to you because you're
Mm,
engaging with your goals and you're engaging with your life and you're trying to enjoy your life, and then you can kind of feel the difference in how you feel when you're engaging your life and you're winning and you're moving things forward versus spending all your time sucked into a hole talking to this person.
mm. Great. Yeah, that's that because that's also uniquely to limerence in that
Right.
changing your exposure to the person and how you relate to the person, how you pay attention, and what else you're doing with your goals is the aspect that's
Right.
specifically to do the response is specifically to that. Wow, great! Thank you very so much, Michelle. That was really really wonderful, enlightening. I think it's so important to hear how people experience the world and how different people do, because we're all human, and there's a lot of although we're all very different, there's a huge overlap in the experiences, and I think nobody is nobody's actually alone in their experiences. There are other people who share them, however unusual they are, quite like lots of people.
Always.
And very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, and I'll great.
Cool.
And that concludes another episode.